The 4 separate interviews with Tony Gilroy about Andor Season 2 just dropped. He not only had a lot to say about this one, but he had something to say about this. Or actually, this. Question, with Dedra and Syril, audiences really responded to that strange tension between them. Can you tell us anything about where that might go? Tony Gilroy, I responded to that too. I don't want to spoil anything, but they're unresolved when we leave them in Ferrix, aren't they? Is that goodbye? I doubt it. Why would I leave 2 fascinating characters like that behind? Then goes on to talk about how there's like a variety of different types of romance this season, specifically what happens to romances when war and revolution enter the chat. In light of those quotes, I want to dive into where we are with this hot mess. On Syril first, Tony Gilroy has said many times, and also repeats in this interview, that Syril is largely like uninformed. That the first time he is really embraced, so to speak, and feels like he belongs is with the Empire. Tony Gilroy then goes on to say, however, what happens when you're embraced by something else? At this point, a Syril defection arc is a question of when, not if. As we see from the trailer, this boy is on the ground during the Gorman massacre. I'm going to assume that he gets to experience some of the Empire's many atrocities in a first-hand way. We also know that Kyle Soller has said that Syril finds out who he is in this season through a series of incredibly stressful events. This is why defection arc for Syril makes absolute sense. Because Syril is the embodiment of one of the show's key theses, which is that everyone has their own rebellion. He ostensibly enjoys rules, order, etc., all that the Empire has to offer. We're actually introduced to him through his rebellious nature. One of the very first things we learn about Syril in Andor Season 1 is that he's tailored his uniform. Uniforms in general are meant to enforce conformity, which is what the Empire is all about. Even though the whole tailoring can be interpreted as Syril wanting to fit in more, wanting to improve these things, still him being given like the baseline status quo, and instead of choosing to accept it as is, he does his own thing. Well, neurotic, yes. It's not a bad character trait. Not only that, but we see routinely throughout Andor Season 1 that whenever Syril encounters any sort of system that clashes with his own personal pursuit of justice and what he thinks is right, he'll rebel against it. When his boss tells him, hey, we're just going to ignore the deaths of those 2 officers on Morlana 1, the second his boss leaves and Syril is in charge, he says, not only but he turns it up to 11. Syril's working at the Fuel Purity Division. He is not even doing his job. He's just obsessively submitting report after report after report about Cassian. During Dedra's interrogation, not conversation of Syril, has this outburst where he's like, I was a good deputy inspector. Or no matter what you think is personally going on here, you are still yelling at an ISB officer. What worries me slightly is the fact that Syril has a total lack of self-preservation in his pursuit of justice. However, on an ideological level, Cyril's natural ethos aligns far better with the rebellion than the Empire. The Empire is all about the extortion of power and corruption. And Syril is actually fighting against the corruption from the very beginning when he ignores his boss and decides to lead his own investigation. In Cyril's own words, there's no room for doubt on the path to success and justice. And I have a feeling that that could be a nice little moment of foreshadowing for this season. There are many, many, many things that the Dedra-Syril dynamic has to offer when we're analyzing where things could potentially go in Andor Season 2. But to me, there are 2 key ones that really stick out. Both of them are actually tied to the rhetorical question that Syril asked Dedra. Can one ever be too aggressive in preserving order? First of all, if Syril truly honestly believed that the structure of the Empire and its goal was set forth to preserve order, no matter what his personal feelings are, he would actually listen to those in charge of it. Second, if you're looking for an example of someone being too aggressive in preserving order, Dedra exemplifies just that. Syril and Dedra could not be more different morally. While they both seemingly have the same goal of capturing Cassian and Luthen/Axis, for Syril that's driven by justice, but justice to him is remediation, aka ensuring that there are appropriate consequences for actions. From Cyril's perspective, justice is merited, because he doesn't know the greater circumstances, nor does he know Cassian personally. He just sees him as the person who 2 of the cops on Morlana 1, and obviously a contributory party for everything that happened under his control on Ferrix. Dedra, on the other hand, and I will not dive too far into this because I've talked about this extensively, I'm happy to talk even more about it if you'd like. While Dedra believes that she is indeed the hero of her own story, she's not driven by any sort of ideological concept other than power and control. No matter what crazy is going on up here, there is no justice in torturing somebody. Capturing Cassian is Dedra's job. Dedra's whole self-identity is centered upon the concept of her being good at her job. Control and power go hand in hand when you are good at your job in the ISB. She has frozen over her entire life in pursuit of her career. No matter what the repercussions were for the riots on Ferrix, Dedra is going to be absolutely ruthless in her pursuit of power this season, because that allows her to bypass dealing with any of her own insecurities or feelings of inadequacy. And the fact that even just being in close physical proximity with someone for the first time, that can bring up weird feelings. Not necessarily romantic feelings, because I don't think she's going to go that way at all. What happened between them was just a little too human moment. Which can bring up things that Dedra would never articulate, like, oh, maybe I did give up my entire life for my career. What would it be like to not be lonely as or even just have a friend? Dedra, when you find out, please let me know. Point is, whatever Dedra and Syril are or aren't this season, it's going to be a train wreck. Especially because, as we see in the trailer, it looks like Syril has gotten a new job within the Empire. We're all assuming that saving Dedra's life probably had something to do with that. Because Gorman is going to be in 5 of the 12 episodes this season, I'm willing to hire a private equity firm, that Dedra does not give two about what happens to Syril during the Gorman massacre, which I think presents a very interesting question when this inevitably does go south. Once Syril realizes not only how bad the Empire is, but a horrible, unjust, corrupt, fascist Dedra is, will he be driven by his own personal sense of justice to get personally involved in the remediation of this? Either way, I cannot wait to watch this go down starting April 22nd. Seriously, Dedra, if you ever figure out like the emotional remedy for when you're just like really, really good at your career and like you have a lot of success, but then all of a sudden you look up and then you're like, oh, I'm older now, and also I have no friends left, and also I've never dated anybody, just let me know.